Professor Vergara. It's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for having me in your program.
So we're really excited to talk to you about company towns. Why don't you start off?
Yeah, so we're hoping that you could just start us off by just telling us what is a company town.
And in most cases, the company built the town. And that means that it has almost like a birth date. It has that explains how the campus started and makes it also from a visual perspective that all the camps are very similar. In terms of the architecture, the design, and all the houses are the same. So for instance, one of the company towns I studied in the north of Chile, people used to say that they couldn't find their house because all the houses were the same. And they tried to paint in different colors, but were not allowed. So there was jokes that you would like come back from work and finish in a different house because they all look the same. And I would say also very close-knit community. Because there is no much relationship with the outside. They tend to be isolated. And finally, I think the kind of social welfare programs that the companies develop in a very early on, so even before labor laws, companies tend to provide housing, benefits as a way to retain the workforce. So that also shape the kind of labor management relationship that you may have in the camps.
What would you say these company towns all have in common?
That the company is not only your employer, but also run the town. And that is key. Because it means that you're negotiating rent, you're negotiating the school for your children, at the same time that you're negotiating your salary.
So thinking about like the American workforce now or the workplace, based on your research and expertise, is there anything about like the modern workplace that like feel like reminds you of company town?
When I have done interviews, many workers remember the life in the company town as a time when they had a community and they were all, it's shaped by memory and how they remember the past. But there is a sense that today there is not a community, that people live spread out, that they commute long distance, that labor unions don't play the same role that they used to play before of bringing the community in, that they are not celebrations, etc., things like that.
Would you ever be willing to live in housing from your employer, in a company town from your employer?
It's a question of control of the workforce, and maybe bringing that in, especially the kind of social control of efforts of company to impose control on behavior, on social habits, and trying to change the workforce. So the use of restriction, the consumption of alcohol, for instance, had been very common in company towns at the beginning of the 20th century to limit or to transform the ways in which people live. So in that another part that people tend to forget about company towns, all this restriction on your daily life, that the company could enter your home and tell you how to live, what you could do inside your home, how you have to run your family, how you have to celebrate, what you could consume and not consume.
So you may have heard that the Forest Service has now banned alcohol in their dormitories because they have workers who live in their dormitories. And they say it's part of their, response to Me Too and their sexual harassment policy. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, given the historical context that you're familiar with?
As a labor historian, I see it as a tool of management to control workers. So I don't see them as a very democratic way or any efforts. I think there tends to be rules and restrictions that management do only in many ways to increase productivity or to eliminate any sort of social conflict and political expression. So unless these rules come from a negotiation between labor unions and management, or sort of agreement within the community that they need to establish different kind of rules to eliminate conflict, to eliminate crime or anything like that, that's different.
Yeah.
But because we'll be part of sort of that negotiation. But when it's imposed that in order to live in a company town, you have to dress in a certain way, you have to behave in a certain way, you have to be legally married, whatever, I think is against workers' freedom.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Vergara. This is so enlightening. And, I think there's so many parallels to thinking about the workplace today.
Thank you very much.